You ever go looking for paint and realize you're staring at it the whole time? Well, I was staring at russet the whole time. So I did find my russet. So we're going to go back and we're going to deepen the shading in in the hairlines here. Basically over everything that we shaded before with russet to deepen it up a bit. So we're going to start on its side. Where she go? Keep her over there where you can see her. You see her? Nope, we're going to do it this way. Back to being upside down. I love her upside down. Okay, I'm going to shade there. And here. You see how this makes it all start to pop out? Along the side. Pitty pat. Mop mop, pitty pat. More russet. Bum, 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 bum. And there we go. Start to come out a bit more. Once again, awesome. And again. You walk your float up a little bit. I like to get this corner here a little bit darker. And we're going to come down her hair, like so. Okay, so that's that float. We're just going to wait for that to dry a little bit, and then we're going to go up into here. And along her hair. Let's see, go. We'll start from here. And this actually gives you a chance to kind of work these corners in just a little bit darker. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop. And there. Get that in a little bit darker. Pop, 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 pop. Yep, looking good, isn't it? And let's see, up in there. The old backhanded float, those are hard to do. Okay. Alright, so that's that float. And then we'll go and we'll dry brush our final layer with that. We're actually going to use pumpkin for the next dry brush layer. Sometimes I'll brighten it. Like I said, when we get it all done, we might go back and brighten, add a few brighter colors, because we can. That one needs a shake. Look at my Okanagan paints. Okay, there we go. Same thing, pick it up. Scrub it on our towel. This is actually good for you guys because you guys actually get to see it properly. Okay, so this one, same thing. Dry brush your higher areas. This is actually a brighter color. It's going to stand out just that little bit more. You also want to make sure that your floats are dry too. Don't dry brush anywhere where your floats have been. More. And here, just love the way this pops. It's like picks up light. Yes, like I said, there's no right way or wrong way to paint. This is the way I like to paint. It's what I like to do, and works for me. We all have something that works for ourselves. And I say taking classes from so many different teachers too, is you take little bits and pieces that you've learned in all your little classes, and you put them together, and suddenly you've got these unique little quirky techniques that work for you, and it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, get that. That cool. So now our hair got nice and bright. So there we go. So that is the hair and the face. Oh, and I think what we'll do now is we're actually going to go back with our angle shader, and with the same pumpkin is we're going to highlight the tops of these just like we did on the nose, just to give it the final little pop of color, a little brighter highlight. Up here. Pop. How cool is that, eh? You know, we could actually even have a lot of fun maybe towards the end and get out the neons. I love the neons. Glamour Dust Paint neons, those are awesome if you haven't played with those yet. Those are like fun things that I like to play with when I'm done too, just to make things pop out a little bit. tip of there. Pop, pop, pop. And how I do that? Just pop, pop, pop. Don't think about it. Don't panic. Don't think about it. Think about floating. We tend to overthink it. Don't overthink it. You'll have to drink more coffee if you overthink it. Pop, 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 pop. There. So that is that. So now that we've done this, we're going to work on her eye. And her eye is actually very simple, very basic. We're going to paint the eye pupil with light buttermilk. Oops. Light buttermilk. And of course she's going to have eyeshadow at the same time. So light buttermilk. I'm going to get out my handy little number 2 liner, which I buried somewhere. Where are you? So my number 2 liner, water it down a little bit. And we're going to base coat in her eye. See, then again, you know, you can paint around the pupil. I prefer not to paint around the pupil. I'd rather paint, because black paints so easily over top of everything else that I just don't see the point in trying to paint around it. Black goes over top of everything. So we're going to put her eye in. If you want to paint around the pupil, you can. I just find it such a lot of work. And then we're going to put her eyeshadow on. Her eyelids are turquoise blue. Little turquoise blue. Pop that in there. I like painting upside down. This is so much fun. Put that in there. Okay, your eyelid. And let that dry. What else can we paint? Oh, well, that's drying. I think we'll get out our traditional burnt umber. It's kind of like the last color that I use. I use it to flatten, I use it to deepen. And traditional burnt umber is used in, I think, every pattern that I do. If I find a color too bright, if I want to enhance, like in the pumpkin-y colors and stuff like that, I will use it. So because the russet actually didn't darken all this as much as I wanted, I did go back and use traditional burnt umber. And when I want to work and keep my, get my floats a little more defined, I'm going to horrify everybody. So I actually use a 3/8 angle shader for working on defining my floats. That's a preference. It's just that I paint that way. I like a little bit more control over what I'm doing. Could come from just the years that it took me to learn, but the way that I like to float. And it works for me. You can stick with your 1/2 inch, you can use a 1 inch, you can use you know, 3/4 inch, 5/8, or flats even, if you prefer to use flats for shading. I just prefer my 3/8. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to deepen in these areas. Your hair, mostly towards the top part. I just want to define, you know, where it's coming out of her face. Up in there. Makes a big difference, I find. Burnt umber, the traditional burnt umber on its own is just a flat, muddy color. When I put it over top of other colors like burnt siennas and stuff like that, I find it just takes on a warmer tone. Everybody, you know, some have their preferences as to how they prefer, you know, asphaltum, raw umbers, you know, just depends. I just love this. It just, to me, it warms everything up. And see, we're going to do that. Let's pop another one in there. Just helps me to define. Makes me happy. You know, things make me happy. You know what happens if I'm not happy? Ask my husband what happens when I'm not happy. Nah. He loves me. Okay. There, pop that in there. And along the side of her dress. I can hear. Not to worry, because her dress scallop thing is going to go here, a little collar and stuff, but just in that. And there. Don't float like normal people. I actually probably float against what a lot of teachers teach, but it works for me. There. So by doing the burnt umber, I also decided that I really can't help myself. I had to go and get, oh yes, neons. I had to go get my neon paints. They're just, yeah, I had to get my neon paints. Green and orange. So what we're going to do, if you don't have them, that's fine. But you know what? Why not? That's the thing about the art play date. We get to step out of the box. We get to try different paints, different mediums, different things that we might not normally do. So I've decided that we're going to add some nice bright orange to the hair. Since I got my nice big floating brush out. It is a nice new one, so it needs a good shake. Once again, the Okanagan settling of my paints. Found one that's open. It'll work. Hot Shots. Hot Shots neons are all the same thing. So I've got mine orange out. This is going to be so cool. Turn it around so you can see. And watch this. So much fun. Pop. Isn't that fun? Look at that. I love it. Just highlight the tips of the hair. Makes it pop out. That's so cool. You think so. Just think if you have the glitters. The glitters would be awesome too. And the black. So bring that out a little bit. Well, that just makes it all pop, doesn't it? Yep, I like that. Finish that up. I could either sing for you right now, I could talk to myself, I could tell you stories. If I was teaching, I'd start telling stories, but we're not teaching, and you probably don't want to hear my stories. So, there. Oh yeah, that's what her hair needed. And then again with the green, I'm going to highlight a little bit with her face with the green. Because we can. And I'm thinking, let's see. Get my little dry brush thingies here. We'll go dry brush it, just to make it stand out a little bit. Let's see what it looks like. Green. Not going to do too much, just a little bit. Pop it in there. Just brighten your face up a little bit. And then, this is what I think is, we'll actually add a float onto her nose as well. Make their nose stand out a little bit more because it's big and it's crooked. And if you have a big crooked nose, like she does, it should be defined, don't you think? Turn it around. And we're going to brighten out her little nose here. Oh yeah, that rocks. There. So we've got her little nose brightened out, her hair brightened out. My burnt umber is dry, so we can now throw another coat of paint onto her eyeball. It's just a case of, working back and forth, finding different things to work on while one thing dries. You can find something else, another coat on something, like her eye. Do a little more shading somewhere if you want it to be a little bit darker. So all sorts of stuff you can play with. You can always touch up your edges. I find I do that a lot. And her head, make that pop out a little bit more. She's so pretty. Okay. And then let's let that dry for a second. Okay, so that's dry. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to shade either side of where the pupil's going to go with traditional burnt umber. Don't want to use too much. I want to keep it very soft, just very light. And where pupil's going to go, probably center here somewhere, so I'm going to go around where my pupil is. Pat, pat. Very soft little float, nothing, I don't want it coming out. Maybe I'll zoom in and see what that looks like. I do the eyes, zoom in a little bit. You see the eye. I'm going to turn her around. Do the other side. There we go. Around her pupil. Okay, and then we're going to actually shade her eyelash, her eyeshadow, her eyelid, with a little bit of Payne's Gray. And we're just going to show around the top up here. Where's her little eye? There we go. Just pop a float up top her eye. Like so. And she's got her makeup on. How cool is that? Now that that's done, we can actually paint in her pupil with lamp black. Not that one. Never clean your palette. So get out the lamp black. Paint in a little pupil. But Barba Bezu, we can assume it's going to be round. Okay, let that dry. So once that's dry, we're just going to float the bottom of her eye with a little bit of turquoise blue, just to bring her eyeball out a little bit along the bottom. Or sideways for me. It's kind of a C-stroke along the bottom, really, is what it is. And I'll just kind of give her a little bit of a blue eye. Yes. Pretty pad. There. So, with her eye, I didn't put a pupil in her eye, but what I did actually is I have little Swarovski crystals or little beads. And I have to show you one here. I don't have the packaging and I only have the little tiny beads. I put one on the end of my finger. Okay, or not. Little tiny Swarovski crystals. This little tiny one. Buy them at any of your craft stores. You can use beads. You can dot her eyeball if you want. And we're going to give her a little sparkle in her eye. And I'm going to use my stylus and pick up a little bit of glue on the end of the stylus and just dot her eye where I want to put my little crystal. Just a little dot of glue. If you ever try squirting it into there, it'll never work. Then I actually use my stylus while it's still got a little bit of glue on it in most cases. Glue does dry clear, so it's not too worried. And just pop that in there. And now she's got this awesome little sparkle in her eye. So that's her eye. And that's her hair done. So you got your cinnamon. We're going to get our cinnamon and our decoupage or your photo transfer medium. Either one will work. They both work as our glue and our sealer. I should come out a little bit for this. Oh, no, wrong way. Hello. So this is the fun part. This is messy, so you might want to get a towel. Put something under, you know, a little workspace here. But it does smell really good, and that's what makes this the most fun of all. So I just want a big old brush. I'm going to use this one. I've got some messy ones that I can play with. There's a messy one. And our decoupage medium. Matte preferably, but if you have the satin or the higher gloss, that's okay. Quite a bit. And we're just going to paint over it. Just paint over your black. Try not to get it outside the lines because we don't really want cinnamon out there, so we're just going to throw on a nice quick coat. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just a good coat, kind of like we did before when we were getting ready for our image transfer. Just throw it on there. It doesn't have to cover 100%. You know, the cinnamon's not going to go everywhere. So get this on there. This is the most fun. We waited and waited for this part. I know you did. And this is how you're actually going to do the frame as well. The frame, just base coat any old frame that you have with lamp black, just like we did the hat. When it's dry, put a coat of this decoupage sealer on, and then sprinkle with cinnamon. The larger the surface, I usually recommend doing like one side of the frame at a time, then going back to the other. Because this is actually a glue as well. If you didn't do any image transfer on this, you chose not to, and you just happen to have any sort of white glue, you can actually use that as well. You can use varnish, a matte varnish. You can put a good coat of that on. Anything that'll dry, clear, and work as a adhesive is all you really need to do. So that's on there. It's kind of fun. Love it. All white and gooey. Cinnamon. This is the best part. It's going to smell so good. And we sprinkle. Put it over there. Sprinkle it. See that? So cool. It's only going to stick where the decoupage medium was, so that's okay. Sprinkle it. Oh, smells so good. Go back a little bit the other way. If you don't like the smell of cinnamon, you're not going to enjoy this, but I don't know anybody who doesn't like the smell of cinnamon. Okay. And then we just like to tap off the excess. A little bit. So that's what we end up with. Now this is kind of tricky. There's well, not really tricky. There's a couple of different things I like to do. You can sit and let it dry, and it will. I like to kind of make it look kind of more modeled, and how I did with this one is I don't want it to come off. This one actually won't come off. So I do pick up a little bit of the medium and a sponge, if you have the round sponges, a stipple brush, anything you want. And I load it up with some of the medium, and I just kind of pounce a little bit. I just want some of the medium of the decoupage medium mixed in with the cinnamon a little bit, because it would helps to create just a little bit more adhesive on it. Seals the cinnamon in. It's just, I don't do a whole lot. I just want to have a little bit. And then it makes it smell really good too. Just quickly pounce. If you use a stipple brush, you can use that as well. It's not going to hurt. Especially if you want to get into the smaller corners too, you might want to just use a stipple brush. When all this dries, it does dry 100% clear. So that's why I don't put too much of the sealer on. It just helps to sort of bond it all. It gives it a kind of a bit of a texture. Because the cinnamon will come off a little bit, of course. So that for the biggest. And then I will go into, oops, rolling away. I know it's here somewhere. Where's my stencil brush? This one. You can even use this one that I did before, just to get a little bit of stuff. Tap, 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 tap. Just anything to kind of stipple a little bit of the decoupage medium over top. Then once this is dry, so now is a good time. Do this here. Now just sit back and let it dry. You can take your mop brush if you want, and if you want to just kind of clean off some of the cinnamon. I wouldn't even worry about it. It is going to come off. You know, once everything's dry. If there's no medium there, it's just going to come off. You could blow on it, then you have cinnamon all over your house. That's okay, like glamour dust, kind of. You could say you were baking all day like me. I have a kitchen because it came with the house. My mother's worst nightmare. There. So we're going to let that dry. But in the meantime, while that's drying, is we want to go and get all of our little gears. All of these guys all need to be painted black and treated the same way. So we're going to paint them all black, get the cinnamon on them, and of course your frame as well. It's your frame. Like here, just paint it black, and we're just going to put the cinnamon on, same as we've done on here, and go to town. Get the, I'm going to move this guy out of the way, and we're going to get the cinnamon on him. And this, I'm actually going to use my pouncer. This little pouncer thing, where is it? There it is. To get the decoupage on, and we're going to do it on here. I don't know about you, but I am very, very, very messy. And this can go so quickly. This way. Pick up our decoupage. And bounce, 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 bounce. Get the decoupage medium on. Goes on nice and quick. Because you know, as well as I, painting these guys, how dirty we get. Bounce these. Nothing needs to be hard, does it? Do things so simple. Bounce, 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 bounce. Go so quickly. Bounce, 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 bounce. At the end of the video, I'll show you a few different projects that you can actually make with this technique, not just for Halloween, Christmas, any time of the year. Just if you want something that smells really pretty, got something ugly, old Halloween-y thing that you want to do something with, give it the, I call it like a faux rust technique. It kind of gives something an old rusty technique, but yet it smells really good. Okay, so we're going to get our cinnamon on these guys. Who's having fun getting messy? Honey, what are you baking? I'm not, I'm painting. Oops, don't want to do that. Get our cinnamon on there. So much fun. I like this, certainly not boring. Okay. Cinnamony. And then, same thing, we'll just kind of give it a little pounce. A medium, just to make sure that we've got some adhesion with all of these guys. So with all of this, and then of course you can do your frame, if you have a frame. If you're choosing not to do a piece and you're just leaving it plain, you know, you could do this on the sides, you could do it, you know, add little bits different places just for a little bit of fun here and there. You're sitting there now painting, thinking of all the things you can do this to. I know you are. Okay, so we're actually going to let all these guys sit and dry. It's going to take, I give them about half an hour to dry until you're happy with it, so it's not all sticky and gooey, and you can run your fingers over it and and the cinnamon doesn't come off. And so we'll come back when that dries, about half an hour or so. So we've got them all dry and all ready to go now, so we're going to just lay them around and get a feel for where you might like to put them. I thought I would brought out some of these little guys. I thought they would be kind of fun. So I might add a couple, you know, just play around, try something different. Not everything has to look like we did it the first time around. Let's see. These are so much fun. So I kind of lay them out and see what I get a feel for. Put that one there. This guy I did like because he was nice and round to put my clock on, so I'm going to put that one right about there. Maybe. Yeah, something like that. Down there. This is how I did it. I just thought it was kind of fun to put them a little bit like so. Angle them. Play around with them. It's all, you know, you want to have some balance, right? Let's see, what else have I got? I'm missing something. Painted some extra ones. Could do that. Put a little guy. Got an extra one of those. I could have a little fun. Maybe I'll try something like that. That looks like kind of fun. And let's see. Maybe I'll stick. Yeah. It's the fun of it. You get to sit around and play. You just throw a couple on here. I think too, I might actually give her a necklace with one of these maybe. Little thing going on down here. Maybe we'll give her a necklace later on. It's fun to find something that you like. Play around with it. This one I'm going to put the clock. But if you find that you know, if your piece was a little smaller and you wanted to change them around, you could, you know, you could put a regular clock timepiece in there and, you know, rearrange your gears. You could go up here a little bit. Play around with different layouts. What else have we got? Quite a few other things to play with here. These ones that I have here, this one's kind of old, more old school looking. It'd be kind of fun to stick that on here too instead of scrapbook paper. If you don't have scrapbook paper, you could do something like that, which is kind of fun too, that way. And have some little claw cans or something. I don't have any little claw cans, unfortunately. That would have been fun to play with. So there's a couple of fun ideas. Just use your creativity, use your imagination. Let's see, this one's here's a little bit bigger. Doesn't quite stand out as much, but we could dry brush a little gold over it or something. That, if you don't have, you can do that. You know, all sorts of kind of stuff. The thing is with this is that we have, it's called the witching hour because we have a clock up here. So it's just kind of the whole idea of bringing the whole clockworks theme sort of down and around throughout here. I have my scrapbook paper and I really quite like the look of that scrapbook paper. So I am going to, we're going to decoupage that scrapbook circle onto there. But at least you've got a bunch of different ideas, a few things that you can play with. But I am going to put that one there. I do quite like that. And see, so many fun little things to play with. Yeah, I can, that's different. Put something small, maybe down in the center there. Play with it. So, figure out what you like and, you know, play around with some different designs. And we're actually going to glue them down. All but this guy. As they get glued down with just my my Aleene's tacky glue. I use this for everything, Aleene's tacky glue. That way. It works as sticks to everything. Any adhesive that you have, you can use. But I like the layout here, so I'm actually going to pop these guys onto here right now, just so I don't forget where I have them that I liked so much. I'm just going to glue a little bit. The nice thing about this glue is it does dry clear too, so we're just going to put a little bit of glue, just enough to hold it in place. Don't want too much, you don't want it oozing out everywhere. There. And I find that that's all I did and it holds it really well, so let's see, pop it down. Plop. Into place there. And if you see any white glue, don't worry about it. It just dries clear and it's gone. And I'm happy with that. Save that for later. So now this guy, we're actually going to go into our awesome scrapbook paper that we love so much. There's this one. And this one. So what I liked about this is we can actually cut the entire circle shape out. So with this, it was the largest one that fit. If this is smaller, if you've got different sizes, there is some different sizes on here, and like I had mentioned early on, you've got some different sizes on here too that can be cut out and used within the project itself as well. And actually it's kind of fun. I just realized that some of these little gears are all in here as well. So you can just keep playing. Use the scrapbook paper as inspiration. So we're going to cut. Scissors. I hate wasting this paper because it's such awesome paper. I just fell in love with this whole steampunky thing going on. Just couldn't help myself. So we're going to go around. Cut gently. I cry every time I cut a piece of this paper out. You know, you can't just hoard it. I'm a paper hoarder. I don't scrapbook. I don't understand the theory of scrapbooking, but I love all the scrapbook pieces, the paper and the elements and ribbons and lace, and just keep trying to find ways to incorporate all of that into what I do that I love so much, which is painting. And I'm really happy to see that the industry is actually taking a turn in that we are starting to find more and more mixing of the two crafts together, because it all really does go together in the grand scheme of things. So we're going to put this on with our decoupage medium, same as we had done before. Glue that on. The nice thing about this is we can just glue the back. Pick it up, paint it, stick it on. It's the crafting part of everything. So we're just going to run a coat of this off over top. Helps to glue everything down. Gives it a nice coating, makes it look actually like it's part of the actual piece itself. Here. I'm going to let that dry. Let's glue this down. And of course you want to make sure that your time is painting the right way. You don't have your time upside down because that would be just like really weird. And we're going to line it up, of course, with the hat. So it needs to go where roughly it's going to touch, but yet we can still line it up with her hat. It's like so. That looks like a good spot. How cool is that? So then what I did is I took my scrapbook paper. I'm going to add her little collar here. So I've taken a complimentary piece. You can do anything Halloween-y, anything that you have kicking around. And I just traced on the shape. Just find a little piece because, as again, I hate wasting it. So just find a little corner where I don't mind cutting out. And I'm going to trace that on. Like graphite paper. Trace that bit onto there. Okay, so just get this cut out and cut it to fit. And I say we can always trim it after. It doesn't even need to be perfect because we haven't even got a pattern to follow for it. Just put that away. And we'll try her outfit on for size. She's going to come down here. Try it on her neck. So I can trim this little bit off here, you know, because things don't always line up where we put them. And that can go on after the fact. So same thing here. We're going to decoupage it on. So I'm going to put my decoupage on the back. On the back. A little bit on the surface, not too much. Just for a little added. And on the back. It's like when we were a kid, cutting and pasting. So much fun. A little bit more. Okay. Alrighty. Let's get her dressed. So you want to just make sure that the neck is lined up. It's mostly, don't worry about this. We'll cut that off. Get her neck lined up. Right. Same thing. Decoupage. Dries matte. You won't see it. It just helps to hold all those little edges down nice and flat the way we like. There. So that's cool. So we'll let both these things dry, and then we're going to... Okay, so now we're going to get her all finished off. We've got everything decoupaged on. We've got all the elements glued. We've got everything where we want it to be. So now we're just going to put a few little finishing touches and dress up her hat. So first I'm going to start with, just very quickly, we're going to dry brush her dress down here. And just dry brush that up with a little bit of turquoise blue, just to bring that color out a bit. If you chose to scrapbook it, you can play with all sorts of different embellishments. If you want to dress her up, do anything you want. Same process with my dry brush on its side, and we're just going to give her a light dry brush, just because black is boring all by itself. Get that on there. Makes her stand out a little bit more too. You know, and maybe if you use a different colored scrapbook paper or something different for her collar, you could pull a color out of there. Any color that we've used in the project, it will do just fine. There, just dry brush that up a little bit. And then we're going to float the hat. We're just going to do a float of black up along the hat, just to separate where her hat's folded over. And that's just with lamp black in your 1/2" angle shader. And I'm going to turn that around to face me, just for that. And just kind of going to go from the top down, to sort of follow the shape of her hat here. Pop that float in very quickly. Just helps give her a little bit of definition. Texture. There, that's simple. Now her hat is completely done. So now we're just going to dress her up. But first off, we're going to put a line that attaches her little hat. We're going to draw a little string. So that's with your liner brush. I use a 10-0 liner for all my liner work. I never use a pen for outlining. I always use my liner brush. So we're just going to just pull along a little line. I'll turn her around to face you. There we go. Look at the ear now. And just from there, and never straight. You don't want anything straight. Just a quick black line. And, you know, it's got to be a bow, right? So I'll do a bow. Bows have strings. And then we're going to highlight the bow with a little bit of light buttermilk. This doesn't stand out very well. So just sketch a little highlight on the left. Just follow it up a little bit. And around the top part of her bow, just to enhance it a little bit. Right there. And the top part of the string. Finger in there. There, so now her little hat is attached to her cloth. And now we're going to glue on her little hat ruffle here. So what I've done actually is the tool that I had talked about before. If you want to use lace, I mean there's really any number of different things that you can use. I'm going to use the tool because it's fun to play with. So what I do is I cut off about a foot long by 4 inches wide maybe. And I'm going to actually glue it. So I'm going to start by, I'm going to run a bead of glue along here. And then with my fingers and my stylus, I'm going to attempt to stick it down. So it does take a little bit of work. If you want to use your glue gun, you're happy with your glue gun, by all means use it. I put my little bead of glue along here, just my Aleene's tacky glue. Because like I said, it dries clear. Put that on there. And I'm going to put my tool down and I'm just going to gather it as I go. It does actually hold quite quickly once it gets going. So we're just going to fold it down, push down, and kind of fold it over as I go. It is messy and it's fun. It takes a little while. So once you've got it glued to where you're happy with it, we're going to trim it. So we'll get trimmed out from here. Is we're going to take a piece of trim, and in this case I've used just a piece of border ribbon, any piece of trim, just plain old black lace trim, and I'm actually going to glue that over top, and that's actually going to help hold everything down. So we'll just run another little bead of glue across here. Lots of glue, you can't go wrong. That down there. Pop this over top. I've cut her to fit. And that's going to hold it all in place. And just hold it down with your fingers. Just let it get all in there. We'll trim any excess hairs, trim anything excess once it dries. And once you're happy that it's dry, it took about 5 minutes just to get it secured on there well enough that we can play with it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to use a little flower. I have a few little odds and ends here that I'm going to use. And just, you know, play with it. I was going to maybe stick a flower. I like this one. Stick that on there. Maybe stick a little flower inside. I wanted to bring the sort of the black lacy bit stuff going on. I was thinking if you wanted to, you could use maybe some of your bits from your leftover gears, or you know, any other little bits that you feel like embellishing. But I'm going to stick with my hat because I quite like the hat with the ribbon and the tool on it. So I'm going to glue that on. We'll go and trim it up once it's all finished. Stick that down there. Hold that into place. I actually used it too to tuck in the little bit of tulle that was sticking around. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of my flower. Stick her in the middle. Stick that in the middle there. There, firmly in place. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dress up this little bit. And I did the same. I've added these little Swarovski crystals. I have a little handful of them, a variety of colors. Black ones, silver ones. They're just, you know, in the beading section of Michael's or Hobby Lobby, whatever. They're just little Swarovski crystals. It's a hard word to say. Or little beads. I'm also thinking I'm going to add a couple of little small gears. Maybe I'll dangle a gear off of here, off of the ends of her bits here. That might be kind of fun. Maybe this one. And that. Sure, why not? We'll do that. So I'm going to glue those on. You can use little beads. You can put anything you want just on the points. And I'm actually going to put a little crystal in the middle of the points. There. And this one. That's neat. I like that. And then I'm actually going to take the crystals and the black one, stick them in the middle. Why not? There. Alright. So there we have it. That is a finished art playdate witching hour project. And I hope you certainly had as much fun doing it as I have. And I thank you very much for joining me for my very first art playdate project, 2014. And I hope you're enjoying everybody else's project. And I look forward to seeing what you have done in upcoming visits to the Art Playdate Facebook page. Thank you. Happy painting.